And the question this episode is, how do I fully recharge without disengaging? And this is a question that some leaders are wrestling with right now. The tension between slowing down through the holidays and the break and still staying relevant, staying engaged, and staying connected. But rather than the question be, how do I recharge without disengaging? Maybe a bit of a reframe. Because what if a pause isn't really a threat to your progress at all? In fact, how can we turn it into something that actually sharpens the focus ahead? There's a great study out of the University of Illinois that hits this on the head. They found that even short breaks that leaders take don't just give you back energy. What they do is they reset your brain's ability to notice things. And oftentimes in leadership, noticing things quicker is a definite superpower. It's very easy to get stuck into the MO of grinding harder. That's what we got to do. We just need to grind harder. But the best leaders that we work with, they're the type of people that develop the muscle to notice faster, noticing the opportunities, the patterns, and the small signals that other leaders miss because they're caught in that spin cycle, the raging torrent of pace that we often reference to. So I'm going to invite you into looking at things differently. What if you took 3 hours with your team, or maybe cut that in half if you're by yourself, and host your own disruption retreat? Again, either do this solo or do this with your team. Now, when you host a disruption retreat, it doesn't have to be all about candles and journaling, but both are great. If you want to weave them in, consider adding them in. But when you host your disruption retreat, call it a form of strategic stillness. Imagine stepping into a completely different space, not even your boardroom, something with some new inputs, whether it be a quiet corner of a library, an offsite space, or even consider something like a music filled studio. The point is, get out of your default environment, which means you're going to get out of your default mindset and into a space where your leadership and your team can be reimagined. And split it up into three sections. And the first section, call call it capturing your tolerance inventory. If you've done our work before, you're not going to be surprised when we bring it to an inventory. Our stance is leaders are great at inventory management. The type of inventory is very important. But in a tolerance inventory, the question to start with is, what did we tolerate in 2025 that we're no longer willing to bring into 2026? Let the people on your team think, reflect, write down. And I don't want you to think about the cost of what just was the cost to the business, but what does it cost you? What does it cost the people inside the business? The energy leaks, the boundaries that were crossed, the decision fatigue, resentment, all of these things that never got named because we were in the spin cycle of getting things done. Now, some of these things might be I I tolerated being available 24/7. And I called it being a good leader, but it drained my focus, it wrecked my sleep, and it really taught my team to rely on my exhaustion instead of their creativity and independence. Maybe you tolerated the mediocrity on your team and it was masked as a culture fit. It kept the stronger voices quiet and anchored the team in average. This is a real example from someone I spoke to this past year. Uh, or maybe you tolerated pretending everything was fine, even in rooms where you knew it wasn't. And in fact, the silence cost you creativity, clarity, connection to some rich discussion and the people in it. Or a common one, you tolerated back to back meetings and acted like your strategic thinking didn't really need this space to exist, that you can just jump in without the context and the preparation. Or one of the most common, maybe you tolerated making everyone else comfortable at the expense of telling the hard truths. This is common. Your first hour is capturing this inventory, all of these things that you tolerated.